Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We are looking at Psalm 69. One of the things I want to encourage you to do is to read the psalm and apply it to the life of faith and to the experience of the church, Christ's church. So we start off, save me, O God. The waters have come up to my neck. And oftentimes as a church, as people of faith, we are so overwhelmed by the level of sin in our own lives, in our own experience as people of God, and out in the world. And part of this is how, the persecutors of the church are let loose against the church. And, with heretics and heresy, with vast numbers of lukewarm, nominal Christians in the church, preventing it from oftentimes doing its gospel calling. And so the waters have come up to my neck. There's no foothold, because in this world, the only foothold we have is the gospel. And if our eyes are not on God, we're not going to have a steady ground on which to place our feet, our lives. One of this is that there's so much worship of God everywhere, but it's just going through the motions without love and spirit or zeal. And there are very few, oftentimes there are very few who have a zeal or fervor for the Lord. And so as he goes on, he said, my eyes fail, looking for you. And that sometimes our eyes get tired of looking up to God. The eye of faith gets weak and dim because of the great commotions of sin in our lives and in the world. He goes on in verse 5, Lord, you know my folly. My guilt is not hidden from you. So God knows our sins. Our offenses are not hidden from God. And so when it comes to, we think about all the ways in which, even though we're called to love God and our neighbor with our lives, so often that's a haphazard process. So we know our sin is at work in the midst of us. He goes on in verse 6 that he prays that the people of God, those who hope in you, will not be disgraced because of me. That those who seek you will not be put ashamed because of me, and that as believers, we will not damage the life of the church. Of course, even if we failed, the church belongs to God. We trust him to make things happen. So he says, I'm a foreigner to my own family. And some of us have this, where because we're people of faith, we're cut off from our family members. But it's the zeal for the Lord that guides us and leads us, even though we're insulted for the faith we have. He goes on, he says, verse 13, but I pray to you, Lord, in the time of your favor, not in my time of everything going well, but in the time of your favor, in your great love, answer me with a sure salvation. The assurance of our salvation comes not from our efforts, but from our trust in God. Answer me, Lord, out of the goodness of your love and your mercy for me. Don't hide your face from me, even though we go through the rejection of the gospel, even though we go through the persecution of the church, the mockery of the church, we look to God's favor. And as he says in verse 20, scorn has broken my heart and left me helpless. I looked for sympathy. I've looked for people who would grieve with me, but I found none, because, again, the world rejects the message of the church, the gospel of Jesus Christ. So as he says, may the table that they've set become a snare for them. May those who have rejected God, let them eat what they've set a table for. But Lord, help me to look to you. I know there's a lot in Psalm 69. Have a blessed day.